Welcome to Claws Out's Coach's Corner with Rob and Adele. I'm your host tonight, Rob Bashara. Apologies for the delay in getting this started. We just had a little bit of problem either getting both Adele's picture and audio at the same time. We were getting one or the other, but we're finally here now and we've got started. But we're here at Mic'dUp Studios, and with me, he's finally back for the start of 2026. We've missed him. He was a big hit with us last year. Welcome to the show, Mr. Adel Haj. How are you?
I'm good, Rob. How are you?
Excellent, mate. Before we get into the West Tigers stuff, just give us a quick little 30 seconds or so. What are you doing these days, footy-wise, with South Logan?
So I took a role basically full-time with South Logan this year. So I'm assistant coach to the Queensland Cup side, and we'll coach the reserve grade BRL, Brisbane Rugby League team. So
all right,
a bit of a full-on role. We just got home and finished our second trial for the year, so big day today.
Good stuff. I love you too much to ask you about the result of that second trial. So let's get on to West Tigers, Adele. How excited are you for the 2026 season?
Yeah, nothing ever changes for me, obviously. The same passion, excitement every single year. We all start with hope, obviously, to start the year. You try to observe the trials and sort of get as much as you can out of it without taking too much into it, because obviously it all starts for real in, 3 weeks for us now. But, very excited and looking forward to it. Obviously, the disappointing for me this year, taking the role that I have means I probably can't get down to Sydney and watch many games, but it's okay.
Well, when
enjoy whatever we can from afar.
When you do get to Sydney, Adele, we're looking forward to having you in the studio to do these one-on-ones, as well as getting you to join the boys on the group chat with Claws Out podcast. Adele, before I touch on the Friday night game, I just want your quick thoughts on the first trial, which was predominantly, cup players sprinkled with a few first-grade players. Anything that stood out for you, good, bad, technically, style of play, or just individuals that you saw some good things from that you didn't expect to see?
I guess first probably give you perspective as to what you're sort of looking for in those trials. So, as you said, it was basically a New South Wales Cup trial. And what you want to see is the habits that the players have tried to improve on from previous years. You're not going to get much of an idea of the style of football we're trying to play, because realistically, those players are not getting the predominant reps in preseason. But you're just looking at the traits, especially the younger blokes, and being able to handle being on that stage is a different type of preparation to what they've probably done previously. And just looking at all those little areas that you want to see from them. And then obviously not so much looking at highlight plays, looking at all the little things that you think is going to make someone become a first-grade footballer at a later stage of their life. I thought personally, I was actually really impressed with Jack Adard, who was the one that impressed me. Just his lack of fear in that first trial, someone I was really impressed with. I think some of the guys that were more seasoned footballers, you got out of them what we expected in a New South Wales Cup game, I guess we'll call it. Everybody else sort of told us what we knew or what I already knew about them. So, not much to take from that, but, a good chance to see those young guys in action on a better stage, on a bigger stage, I guess.
Well, Friday night we met the Panthers at the eighth wonder of the world, Leichhardt Oval, and we got the win, 26-12. 2 for 2, Adele. I know they're only trials, but, they say winning is a habit. Just give me your overall impressions. And look, I think I'm going to predominantly talk about the first half, because let's face it, that's when the first graders were on. We will touch on the tries we scored and you can get into some of the technical aspects of those tries, but just your overall impressions of the start of the game with the sort of, the forcings back, the going forward. How did you think our pack went, given the fact that we had 2 stars out in Terrell May and Royce Hunt, like 2 of our strike forwards? How do you think our pack handled the Penrith pack?
Well, I guess the first thing to note is Penrith are a well-established squad. So they're a squad that, you haven't seen that many changes to their top 13, 14, 15 players. And I can't remember. I think Liam Martin was the only one out the other night. I don't know.
Casey McLean. He got rested.
Casey, I mean from a forward pack perspective, Yeah, they had a really good squad. So it was a bit of an idea for us to get a bit of a look at what some of the changes around, some of the things we obviously said last year we wanted to see improvement on, and just watch carefully some of the habits and some of the areas that we've heard about that they're going to change and they want to be better at, and see whether that's there. You're right. I mean, I only paid really attention to the first 50 minutes of the game. I think for me, Adam Doueihi said something at the end of the game that sort of made sense, and he said that they didn't want to try too many things in the trial around their attack, especially. There were a few things of note that I sort of paid attention to in regards to our defence, and you could hear some things through the mics that they wanted to focus on. But overall, I probably will say that's probably one of the higher quality trials from the weekend, and yeah, it's probably a really positive start for us.
Okay, well, look, let's talk about some of the tries, ADEL, and you can break them down. And look, we have to look at it from both sides. I mean, we've been waxing on lyrical about our left edge and how exciting it can be scoring tries. Unfortunately, they did score a try down our left edge through some really nice work from Cleary. I think everyone basically jammed in and everyone followed their inside man, and Cleary threw a long overhead pass to Toto that went over the top of Masini, and then Toto did some good work beating 2 or 3 defenders.
Yeah, the first thing I'm going to say is Masini has zero fault in this play at all. So I know a lot of people out there say come off his wing. If you flip this and say, let's, for example, say Masini, and I'm going to do this back to front. If Masini stays out, it means the pass goes to the centre goes straight through. There's no opportunity for Taylor May to double defend on the play because obviously once he goes through that gap, it takes away the time of the defenders from the inside to be able to defend a second occasion. So Masini actually does the right thing. What Penrith do really well is they play what they call a string play, so forward to forward, and they try to get us to sink in a little bit on the outside. What actually happens in that play is Jahream Bula does a really good job to defend twice on the play on a lead runner on the first time, and then looks to put a bit of pressure on Cleary, but then obviously makes the secondary decision to back off. Taylor May engages, and I think it was Alex Twile that might have been. I'm not sure if it was Alex Twile or Samuela, but one of them does another good job from the inside. So if Taylor May doesn't actually sink in onto the lead runner, I think we would have been able to solve it. We might have lost a bit of ground, but he made the decision to take the lead runner, which meant Masini had to follow. And he's got to try to get in the passing lane. And realistically, he does the right job there of creating a longer pass, and it takes a bit of time, which meant your Taylor May and Bula could get to that situation. That's just disappointing from those guys, and that's okay in preseason. Like, Bula does the right thing of sprinting to make Toto come off his right foot, and then Taylor May's just got to make that tackle. It's not unexpected in preseason to miss those sort of tackles, and at the same time, we are talking about Brian Toto, so it's not the first and won't be the last blokes he's made missed tackles in open space in the past. So I just want to make that clear. Masini's got zero fault in that play whatsoever. He actually does everything right defensively from a system perspective.
Well, in the 14th minute, ADEL, we got our first taste of the excitement machine, Masini, with some really good lead-up work from Doueihi, who got Masini down the wing, and to Dylan Edwards' credit, he made a great covering tackle on him. Do you want to just talk us through that play and just what you saw in Jahream Bula? Because he actually, a couple of times in the half, he created for those guys outside him on the left.
Well, for once, we were the ones getting on the receiving end or winning the fact that the reason that actually happened was because it was the fifth tackle and we got a set restart, and Toto had already gone back for the kick for tackle 5. So it was really good observation from the boys to be able to spot that. And Jahream throws a beautiful pass to get Taylor May on the outside, the draw and pass. What I will say is I think psychologically that play had a bit of an impact. And we're going to talk about Masini later, but I think Dylan Edwards makes the tackle and he does a good job to hang on. But I think psychologically that moment that he just hung on sat in his head a little bit later on when the second thing happens. But it was really good observation from Jahream to get the ball to Taylor May early. And then, it's a great tackle from from Edwards, sorry.
Well, ultimately, when Masini did get tackled, ADEL, we worked the play right. We got another 6 again. I think Adam got a really poor pass that he had to fall on the 5th tackle. And then on the last tackle, when we're expecting the kick, Doueihi again, just decides to run it, steps off the right foot, gets the ball to Samuela, who does a beautiful little grubber kick. Looked like he'd regained the ball and scored, but as we were discussing on the previous show with Steve and Gary, he got up looking like he hadn't scored a try. But it was just interesting that we went for a running play and that our second rower put the ball through as opposed to, normally, as you've said previously, Jahream Bula has one of the greatest short kicking games in the league. So it's just interesting that we chanced our arm and ran it. Look, I guess it's a trial. We can try some things, but it was actually really nice just for the boys to be backing themselves.
Yeah, and I think that's probably what it comes down to. Jahream's going to always be that player that likes to take chances whenever there's something on, especially on an edge that I reckon he's got a lot of confidence in this year with the firepower he's got outside him. Worst case scenario there would have been getting tackled into the corner. I guess the message to Samuela there is if you're going to kick the ball as a back rower, you'd like to think he's practiced it before, he's done it at training before, and he's able to make sure he keeps the ball in play, which he did. And we could have got lucky. He could have knocked it on, but we got rewarded with a reset there.
Well, in the 16th minute, ADEL, Adam Doueihi gets the ball at first receiver, sees a little bit of a gap there, chances his arm as he loves to do. He loves to run the ball. Gets a flick pass out that, tiny bit risky, but it worked. It got it to Bula, and Bula goes over for the try, which Adam converted from the sideline. Mate, talk us through that try, what you saw in the try, and more importantly, what did Adam see there? Because there's some people, even though we scored the try, some people are critical that perhaps Adam should have let the ball early and it was like a 4-on-3. I don't go with that argument, but how did you see the try?
Yeah, I mean, Adam, I've had a conversation with him, but I'd like to think that those conversations they've had around his ability to play better tempo and being able to pass the ball in shape, right? But it's not his strength. Well, at the moment, it's not his strength. So, again, I'd like to think that they've been able to improve it, but at the same time, it may be one of those things where they've talked about that he's a big body. So if it means we're going to get teams to collapse on you when there's half an opportunity to take it, without being on the inside and having those conversations, you don't know. But normally in that situation, he actually done a really good job to create indecisiveness in the defence. If he squares up his man and plays out the back to Bula, well, we should get a 2-on-1 on the outside. He doesn't. He runs the ball. But again, being a big body means that he's able to capitalise on the back of it. We did get a little bit lucky. I thought Jenkins read it pretty well, and it could have been intercepted, but it wasn't. And Jahream scored in the corner. So, it's not the prettiest of try shape-wise, but I think the intent was there, so that's a positive.
We know Adam's not, a natural number 7, ADEL. Do you see him holding that jersey for the rest of the year if we're winning our fair share of games and playing well?
If we're winning games, of course he is. If we're winning more than we're losing. I don't know. I think that I don't mean to be ever disrespectful, obviously. I don't think it's Jock Madden that's going to take his spot. I think that's whether Benji wants to go with Latu at some stage. I'm hoping they go Doueihi or Year. Now that they've committed to this and they've gone with it, unless we're really looking bad and things aren't going well, I want Doueihi to be there all year now.
Yeah, I'm with you there, mate. All right, let's talk about this Masini try. Can I ask you how many times you've watched it already?
Too many. Look, and you know what, you shouldn't do comparisons with the people, but people have talked about Doueihi and Radradra and but Mike Acevo, mate, that's if the way he lowers his shoulder into Edwards is Jonah Lomu. That's who it is. It's none of the other guys. But the crazy thing is, I've seen this before. I said to you last year that there's only one player that's impressed me better in junior reps, and that is Latrell Mitchell. But mate, it's freak, absolute freak.
Well, mate,
I don't. You know what? There's nothing to talk about with that try. It's just you watch it and watch it and watch it, and that's just freakish. But what I want to say to people is, when he tries to beat someone on the outside and someone actually tackles him, put him into touch, let's not complain about it, because this is who he is. He's going to, he's a kid and he's going to go for the big play. And if there's a metre of space down the sideline, he's probably going to try to back himself to bump somebody. But at some stage, someone will tackle him. He'll go into touch. He'll make an error, and it's okay.
Well, mate, talk us through the early work in that try before Masini gets the ball, like the offload from Twal, the footwork on that Doueihi did on Cleary, really good quick hands from Samuela, like had to take the hit before he, offload, like as he was offloading the ball. Taylor May didn't have to do much, but he did his job. And then you can rave on all you want about Masini, but I just thought there was a lot of, the fact that we had second phase there, ADEL, that's what we've been lacking. And it was the only offload Alex did for the game, but it was a really great one.
Well, we haven't lacked set offloads, and if you go back to our reviews last year, I actually talked about this, is our ability to move the ball and find space off the back of offloads. We were really poor at it. It was one of 2 or 3 things I talked about we'd need to get better at. So I'm hoping / guessing they've identified that and were quick to move the ball. I think that was a positive. Again, how much of a fan I am of Jahream Bula. If other players do what he did, it's glorified a little bit more. But that's sheer individual brilliance to create that try. And the Samuela thing, again, like people talk about that and they take away from that. The ability to back row to catch pass in one motion. Taylor May didn't have much to do, but what he had to do is he had to time his pass perfectly.
Which he did.
These are all, yes, absolutely. So these are all skills and things that they practice so much. And they put scenarios of this. It's a lot of practice to make sure that they get in the right position. But then on top of that, the kid should have been put into touch the first time, should have been put into touch the second time, should have been tackled the third time. And he was just too big, too strong.
We were speaking earlier tonight, ADEL, with Gary and Steve about the left edge and where it sits in the competition. I know potentially it could be right up there if it performs at its best. Right now, where do you think we rate? I mean, I know it's a question without notice, but are we in the top sort of 5, you reckon, left edge if things go well? I think it's pretty potent. You don't want to talk about that stuff?
Ask me around 5.
Okay, fair enough, mate. Adam Doueihi misses a conversion, so we're leading 10-6. And then later on in the half, we had a bomb. Well, not really a bomb so much. It was more like a big chip kick. Cleary passes the ball out to Doueihi. He puts a shortish bomb up. And this is something we seem to have a problem with most of the first half, ADEL, like, what's his name? Jenkins stuffed up a few of the catches, but we were getting out-leapt quite easily. And this was another issue that, well, obviously Alamotti jumps over the top of Bula and catches a try. But, Taruva looked like he was going to get out-leapt by Jenkins all night. And Jenkins is a great leaper of the ball. I'm not denying that. But could that be a weakness for us down the track, mate? I was a little bit disappointed with, Bula's really good under the high ball. I just thought that was a little bit too easy for Alamotti. Or am I just being a little bit overly critical there?
Yeah, you are.
Standard, by the way.
I'll talk about Jahream Bula a little bit later. I couldn't understand some of the reactions to his performance. Like, it made no sense to me. But look, Tito's one's a concern for me. The right, Tito on the right wing, he's going to be targeted. He's going to be targeted all year. We've got to find a way to adjust. I can't remember which team it was, come up against the Roosters last year. They come up with a bit of a plan on how to defend those kicks. Something's got to be done because it's got to be better. The Bula one, he actually paid the consequences for being too good for being in his position too quickly. And what I mean by that is the hardest catch to catch. I've seen Tedesco. I've seen blokes like Tommy Turbo. I've seen, obviously Reece Walsh. It happened to Reece Walsh against the Roosters last year. Billy Smith leapt over him. When you're standing still and you've got to leap with your vertical, it's practically impossible to beat someone who's coming with a leap and with momentum.
You're a sitting shot, aren't you?
In that situation, yeah, it's like, an average bloke would probably be a better chance of leaping over someone when you're standing still. So I think the fact that Bula got there really early to where he needed to be to cover the play meant that he didn't have any momentum, and the ball was basically what we call put on his head, so that the bomb was actually put up, that it was landing exactly where he's standing. So he doesn't have any momentum to to leap into the ball. If you ask someone to run 10 metres and leap into the air, they're going to jump higher than asking them to do it standing still. So that's probably the way to explain it to people. I actually thought Alamoli dropped the ball, to be honest. I thought he touched it into Jahream, but we don't really care about that in preseason. But I definitely think Tito's going to get targeted, and they've got to come up with some sort of a plan. You're almost better off with Tito getting him to stay up on the line. If they bomb behind him, at least he's running with the catcher and with momentum. I don't know. I don't actually know what the solution to that is, but we've got to come up with something on that side of the field because he will be targeted all year. And most teams have good leapers on their left wing, so yeah, that's a concern.
ADEL, it's not a technical issue, but just what are your thoughts on the Cleary tackle on Masini? Like, should I mean,
I've had this conversation with so many people. I think that at the end of the day, if the tackler is in a standing motion and he doesn't, to me, Masini causes the contact, and that's going to be controversial. But his change of level meant Cleary hits him in the head. And I think this, and I've been consistent with this all along, if the defender is at a normal standing height and they hit somebody, I think that's a mitigating circumstance, especially when their level drops. I remember last year's grand final when, say, the coach drops in the tackle and Walsh hits him in the head. It was a penalty, but people were blowing up about it. I'm like, it makes no sense to me how that. The only time I think someone should be severely punished for hitting someone in the head is if the person is stationary and you come in and you initiate the contact and you've got a stationary target, or the bloke is running at the same height all along and you initiate contact again. But the moment the attacker changes their body height or the level, we're talking about split seconds here. I think that maybe give a penalty, but I don't think it should be anything more than that. And just because somebody tackles hard shouldn't be a penalty, shouldn't be a sin bin. And that's what they're talking about. Now it's moderate force, light force. Sometimes the reason why it looks like it's moderate force or higher force is because the person running the ball is running a little bit stronger. That's why it looks a bit more physical.
I'm not going to lie, ADEL. I've only seen it a couple of times, so you can correct me if I'm wrong here. Did he not go in with a shoulder charge?
No.
He didn't?
That's a tackling motion. No. Just because you're leading with you. Well, this is the other thing I have a problem with. Just because you're leading with your shoulder, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's a shoulder charge. A shoulder charge is when you tuck your arm in and your shoulder turns and you hit them. But the new one is they're talking about no wrapping motion of the arm. But then all of a sudden, the problem I have with that is if they ask you to wrap your arm, and I'll move myself so I can see, and you've got to have a wrapping motion. And again, the attacker's head is here, and then he changes towards my arm, and my arm hits him. Then they say you've hit him with a swinging arm. So you can't win, really, as a defender. They've made it really, really challenging for defenders. And, we've been on the receiving end of this quite a bit, where we've had blokes go to the bin for high tackles and whatnot. I just don't agree with it, but that's the way it is.
Mate, we scored. Well, look, by the way, it was good to see Masini get up from that really quickly, and I think Adam got a ball. Adam picked up a ball on half time, and it got shuffled out a couple of passes, and Masini almost made a break and got to the halfway line. So it didn't have any immediate effect on him. So it was good to see Masini get up and do well. Mate, we'll speak about these last three tries. I don't know if you've got them in your memory bank or not. Do you remember the Brodaloy try?
Yeah, the little grubber by Andrews. Is that the one?
Yes.
Actually, before we go there, I want to comment because you could tell that the boys were playing very simple football, but in the last 5 minutes of that first half, I seen a little bit of a difference in shape. We started running some dual lead runners, which we've never done before. Sorry, we've done it out of 9, but we've done it in 2 phases.
Yep.
So you could sort of kind of see that there's a little bit of difference to our shape. I also seen we've been the type of team that'll just uphill jump in the dummy half, give a bloke a ball and try to get to a spot on the field to set up the next play, which are called lay lines or set up. Most people call them setting up plays. We actually did it with shape on the weekend or on Friday, which I was impressed with. It wasn't so much just passing a middle a ball and just telling him to just carry the ball, and then what they want to do is play because they're going to set up a play from a particular spot on the field. We did it with shape, which meant that the Penrith defenders on inside and outside were having to move up as well. It wasn't as easy as just dual contact on the bloke running the ball, and then the next play they were just able to defend it easier. So I did see there was a little bit of a change to our attack around our good ball stuff. But at the same time, again, listening to Doueihi at the end, you can tell that they didn't want to run too much stuff. He mentioned there was no trick shots. There was no.
Yep.
It was trying to keep it as simple as we could. So that was another thing I noticed from that back into that first half. The other thing with that first group was you could tell that they are a fitter football side. The line speed on tackle 1 and 2 was significantly better, especially in transition.
Yep.
So anytime there was a changeover, I thought our tackle 1 and 2 line speed was really good, and it had the right intent about it. So that's something I noticed with that first group. The other thing that I could hear coming through the mics was every single time, and I didn't hear it on an attack, but I heard it in defence, every single time there was contact early in the game and it started to fizzle out, or I didn't hear it as much later in the half, was I could hear people saying, win it. And that was about winning the contact. And I know that, speaking to a few people, that's one of the things that they're trying to do is win the ball a little bit better in defence, which, to be honest, they actually at times lost quite frequently, but I put that down to Penrith's ball movement. It was elite. I thought Penrith moved the ball really well, really early.
Do you want to touch on these other few tries? Did any of those last 3 tries impress you, mate? We scored right on full time with Mason. There was a really good try to Luke Lauliti prior to that. And the one that I mentioned with Bottle.
I thought Luke Lauliti was really good, Rob. And I know that he come on mainly, but he did have a little bit where the Panthers had a few guys on. But he showed me something a little bit different on the weekend, which, I think for him it's getting it out of his head a little bit. I think he's had some issues with injury and concussion. So I think that's why he's been a bit tentative. But on the weekend, I was really impressed with his spell. Like, he looked like he was physically stronger than everybody else in that second spell, which I think he needs to do in that level. So he was really good. The tries wise, mate, I can't really. I'm not going to. I think the other boys showed that they were better than the level that Penrith had. But if I'm Penrith, I'm worried about that second phase of that group they've got, which is understandable considering they've been pilfered from pillar to post around their depth. But yeah, that second part of that Penrith squad was pretty poor, to be honest. And the boys capitalised on that, which is good.
Now, I agree with you 100% that when everyone's healthy, it's Adam, it's Latu, it's Madden in that order. And I know Madden was playing against, cup standard sort of second half. Mate, just my observation, I just think he gives the team a lot of width when he plays. He'll when he runs, he digs into the line. He's giving long passes. I just feel like there's more space on the field when he's there. Is that a fair assumption? His kicking game's good. I'm not saying he's pushing for first grade, but I don't think he'd let anyone down if we were desperate to throw him in there.
I don't want to be critical of the guy because I haven't seen him at that level for a while. I want to know if he can do it against the heavyweights. Like, that's the thing. And we're not going to know until he plays. But, he did a good job with his kicking game against the Roosters and then in that second half, because you don't have elite fullbacks and wingers. That's my observation. The positioning of those players, the ability for our boys to get on the front foot was really good. I thought Adam and Jahream kicked the ball really well in that first spell as well. But yeah, and then the most important thing, and I think this is the part where we kind of forget the game is played two ways. Defensively is where his problem lies. He's a spot defender. He doesn't win the contact. Teams are able to create line speed. And again, he's come from the premiership winning team where he didn't play a game. And we're talking about blokes like Josh Rogers. I'm trying to think who was the other one that played ahead of him. There was somebody else that played ahead of him as well. So
Billy Walters.
Yeah, I just yeah, but Billy Walters, quality player. But I just it's going to be hard for him because I don't know whether we're going to see it in first grade, but that's when I want to see it. And because of the preparations and where our squad is, I don't think we're going to see it, to be honest.
Mate,
I hope we. To be honest, I hope we don't, because that means we'd have no injuries.
I really wish I could have got the stats, ADEL, from a first half perspective, or as you said, like first 45, 50-minute perspective. But I'll just quickly go over some of these stats, and if you want to discuss any of them, please just stop me or mention them at the end. West Tigers had 58% of the possession. Completions, we completed at 87%, Penrith at 64%. In terms of metres, we made over 2,117. They only made 1,543. We made 7 line breaks to 2. Average set distance, we were 43 metres. They were 40. Play the ball speed, ADEL, we were a bit slower. We were 3.75. They were 3.46. That's 0.29. That's reasonably significant at that level. We won the offload 6-5. Tackles made, they made a lot more, 443 to 321. Tackles missed was pretty even, 48-47. We had one worse. We won the penalty 7-3, and the errors were Penrith 20 errors, West Tigers 9. Any of those stats mean anything to you other than I think the completion is the standout stat, really, given how we played?
Yeah, not really in the trial, because he doesn't give you an insight with so many players used and different parts of the game and whatnot. So, yeah, realistically, those numbers don't mean anything at the moment.
All right, mate, let's get on to some of the players from the game. Do you want to mention any established players first? Because I do want to speak about some of the young ones, because we've got to look at the future as well. You've mentioned Adard already, but just out of the top grade. So you mentioned you're a bit upset about the comments regarding Bula. So do you want to touch on that first? We'll start at number 1.
No, I'm not upset. I just didn't understand, like people were talking about he had a horrible game. I'm trying to figure out, I think it was a flick pass to Ruva that went to ground. It was from the scrum. These are the things that we want to see Jahream's game improve. These are the things that we want him to come into his game. So you want to encourage it and without fear of failure. So to me, the fact that he's looking to do this stuff is a point. What we need to do as a fan base is delete, and I know it's not easy, delete the contract situation.
Yep.
Let's put that aside right now, because it's irrelevant, because he's technically under contract with us for 2 years. That's the reality. The reality is he's not off contract, because we have a choice in this. This is not about him. This is about us. We have a choice. If we want him to be our fullback for 2 years, we can pay him the money and he can be our fullback. It's very, very simple. And he's in a position that I think he's entitled to be in. And regarding what he's worth and all that sort of stuff, to us, he's worth $1 million, because the alternative is we either got to find a fullback or we've got to wait a couple of years for one of these guys to do a job, which is still a bit of an unknown. So I think we've got to almost stop worrying about his contract situation and just concentrate about the player we know he is and what he's going to be for us right now. You can't put microscopes on every single error. He's still learning the craft of the game. He's going to be a better player in 3 and 4 years. I worry. Imagine we had Reece Walsh. Have you seen the errors Reece Walsh makes?
Yeah, but he more than makes up for it.
So does Jahream. If you look at our stuff, the majority of what Jahream does is really, really good.
Of course it is.
I think and that's my point to this all, right? So I'm not upset about it, but I just want us to, I think the whole contract thing and the media, the way they're playing it out, is meaning we're sort of a little bit tentative, obviously off the back of Galvin last year. So, wasn't upset, but, it is what it is.
Mate, we've spoken about Doueihi, we've spoken about Adam Doueihi. Anyone from the 3-quarter line you want to mention? Do you want to say anything more about Masini or any of the centres? What do you think of Starfatoa's performance? He had 13 tackles made, but he missed 5.
Yeah, I think that's the part of his game that he's got to be a bit more solid at. But again, it's a trial game. We don't know how much football he's played, what his preseasons look like. Judge him round 1.
Okay, from the starting forward pack, mate, I thought I mentioned on the previous podcast, Bolle was amazing, except for one simple drop ball. What were your thoughts on his game?
He didn't start, by the way, but no, he was good.
I'm looking at number 10, you see.
Okay, no, he did 2 things. Him and someone else did 2 things, not 2 things. It's things that annoyed me, and they did it a lot last year. And I wish someone actually has it. They get up. If they play the ball slow, they get up and look at the referee. Just play the ball. So I want him to focus on that. But he carried the ball really strong. Yeah, I think for him the challenge is going to be 24, 25 rounds of football. We need to see him go the whole year. He started really well last year, then faded out, which again, front rower, what is he in his third year of first grade? This will be his fourth
This will
coming
be his
up.
fourth year.
So again, he's still not even close to his peak. So he'll be learning the ins and outs of being a high quality front rower in the competition. So yeah, it's just growth and another preseason under his belt. But I thought he played well.
Someone I thought was a bench player, but he might not be. New addition to the club, Bunty Afoa. Your thoughts on his trial performance?
Yeah, I'm concerned about Bunty, to be honest, Rob. I thought laterally he's pretty poor, his movements.
Okay.
I think it's a concern defensively. In attack, he carries the ball strong. The other thing he does really poorly, again, I hope they ID it, plays the ball with his right hand, but he's always carrying the ball in his left, so it takes him a long time to play the ball. And his play the ball speeds were really slow because of it. So when he gets up to play the ball, he's having to move the ball from his left to his right hand, which is that extra split second, which, as we know, play the balls. But defensively, his lateral movements aren't very good. And again, let me rephrase all this. For a first trial,
Mate,
for his first trial. So I want to see that improve. And he's got to try to find his front a little bit better. But carried the ball very, very strong.
Your eye and that attention to detail, mate, that makes my night when you pick up things like that, because that's just something I don't see. Again, this is where you look at the stats and you see 23 tackles made, 1 missed, ran the ball pretty solid, and you think, oh, Bunty Afoa is going well. But when I hear your perspective on it, yeah, it's just refreshing to get someone who's got a real eagle eye and great knowledge of the game. Look, he's not a newbie, mate, but I want your thoughts on Charlie Murray, because I know he did it against the Roosters pack that was, half New South Wales Cup players. He didn't have an offload the other night. I thought he was really strong.
Surprised me, if I'm being honest, but then it doesn't surprise me that he's come off, because, correct me if I'm wrong, didn't we sign him midway through last year?
I think he was officially on the roster midway through last year. I think he was always with the club, wasn't he? I could be wrong.
He didn't do I don't think he done preseason. Don't underestimate a mature age player and what preseason looks like for them and how much of a difference it can make. He's going to be a fascinating one because he's a different body type to some of the majority of the guys we've got. So it could be something that Benji looks at and goes, you know what, we need his little bit of versatility and what he can bring. But again, without being there day in, day out, you sort of don't know what the things he's been able to improve with. But he looked good in the small doses we've had, especially the other night when he came on in the first spell. He's looked that he's been able to be solid at the very least.
Sione Fainu. He was pretty strong in a lot of areas the other night, but unfortunately he did miss 7 tackles. Is that a concern, or should we be concerned by that? Because I think, we looked at him as he's really established himself in the first grade team coming to the end of 2025. And, a lot of people are saying he should probably be starting and getting bigger minutes. But when you see those stats, I know it's only a trial, I know it's early in the season, but is it something to be concerned about?
No, because I don't know when those happened. He also played in the New South Wales Cup part of the game in the back end. But again, I didn't really. I don't pay attention to missed tackles, Rob, like other people, because missed tackles are judged by people behind the screen, and they put it down as a missed tackle where, and I'm not talking about this specifically for Sione, but as a whole. So you'll know someone's lack of efficiency defensively by if there's continuous play the ball speed created on the back of them. And I didn't notice it with Sione, so I won't say. Like, we know Uppy misses a lot of tackles statistically, but he doesn't, he will miss the odd tackle where someone will go through him. But that's the key for me. It's if someone goes through you, well, that's a genuine missed tackle, or someone is creating line speed. There's some guys that catch people in tackles, don't miss. There's 0 missed tackles on the stat screen, but they're always getting quick play the balls. Like Galvin used to be the number one in it. Galvin never missed tackles. It happened to Galvin at the Bulldogs last year. The teams were carrying at him because they were always getting quick play the balls off the back of it. So that's, to me, just as bad as or probably even worse than someone who misses a tackle in a situation where he's coming to put inside pressure and misses the tackle, and then someone else helps over the top. They count that as a missed tackle. So got a bit of a tangent here, but yeah, I once the competition starts and blokes become liabilities in that situation, they'll show for us. It'll show to us a lot clearer. Sorry.
Mate, I want some brutal truth answers about some of these players' names I'm going to read out, and all I want to know is are they capable of providing a few good, solid games of first grade at a minimum this year for the West Tigers?
Hang on.
I'm hanging on.
You haven't talked about Alex Twal.
I didn't talk about Twal or Seyfarth because I didn't know what I think you were, every time I spoke to you about Alex Twal, you'd say, Alex is always going to give you a 7.5 out of 10 performance, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Okay, you go for it. You want to talk about that effort play? That effort play he did from the dead ball line?
No. I think this is going to be Alex Twal's best year. Some of the things I watched of him the other night, he's going to have a career season. There's my prediction for this year.
Mate, that's what every West Tigers fan wants to hear, and that'll be reward for getting that 2-year extension. Well, before I jump onto these fringe players, mate, is there anyone else you want to talk about that was in the starting lineup? Did you want to mention Seyfarth? I mean, he got thrown in as a late replacement for Kai Pearce-Paul being out.
He's the other one that gets up and looks at the referee and slows to play the ball down. He needs to be better at that. But look, he's going to be handy for us, especially with this 6-man bench. Like, to me, he's on that bench every single week. If Pearce-Paul doesn't play early on in the year, I'm putting Seyfarth in the back row because you know what you're going to get. He knows the job he's going to do, and it allows everybody else to be playing their role. It's a straight swap. I wouldn't sort of shuffle around too much. I know this. I feel like, well, I don't feel like Sione actually played in the back row to start the game on the weekend.
He did, and then
even
got
though they
shifted.
named Seyfarth but they named Seyfarth as the replacement. So I don't know if that means Benji's decided that Seyfarth's purely going to play in the middle. He may have, because I don't think I've seen Seyfarth play in the back row on the edge on the weekend. So that'll be an interesting one.
Can these players play some first grade, mate? I think I know the answer for the first one. Patrick Herbert.
Yes.
He can.
Yes.
Okay, that's good to hear. I disagree with you there.
Don't judge. No, yeah, but you got to remember he's had a year out of the game. He'll be fine.
Okay, because he was a bit rusty against the Roosters as well. Like I'm basing this on 2 trials.
Yeah. He's here to play New South Wales Cup for 2 years, but he can play first grade at some stage.
Okay, you've been impressed with Tony Suka?
Very much so. Very much so.
Christian Hope?
He's gone backwards.
Heath Mason?
Was impressive, actually, yeah. I don't think he should play fullback, but I don't know. I thought he was good. I thought he was good in the Roosters trial where he probably should have been anyway. Played lock, which was interesting. But, yeah, he was good in the New South Wales Cup version of the trials. Again, you don't know until you see him at first grade.
I know you've got a big rap on this guy and you've mentioned it earlier tonight, so obviously you're going to say yes to Luke Laulii, so I'm going to twist the question. Is Luke Laulii first drop if a winger goes down, or is it Skelton? Or is it someone else?
Skelton.
Still Skelton?
No, Skelton, yeah.
Okay.
Running on the board.
Mate, am I the only one that was surprised by Mav Geyer? What did you think?
Yeah, good. His mobility is really good. But he didn't play big minutes, which was good for him. Going to be an interesting one. Again, I don't know what his preseason's been like. I think Benji will – it seemed to me like he wanted to get him in the first rotation as a middle. So depending on what Terrell May does come round 2, I think you might find Guy might play round 2.
And I've almost spoken about everyone, but I'm not. Just your thoughts on Javon Andrews, okay, because he's had some good touches in 2 trials now. And – look, given the makeup of our top 30 this year, if he was to play first grade, where would he play? Like, is there any room for him to play anywhere else other than the halves?
The only way he's going to play first grade is if we have 7 injuries, and this is not about ability. It's not about reality. Ability. I think they want it. No. I think he needs a year of cup. Yeah. He played. He's come from injuries and I think he played maybe 2 or 3 games for Tweed last year in the Host Plus Cup, so up here. So this is the natural. I have a feeling, and I haven't spoken to anybody at the club, but I will soon. Actually, I need to have a conversation with one person in particular about external stuff. But I have a feeling they've recruited so that it's going to allow them, besides Masini, all these young kids to get consistent New South Wales Cup under their belt. It means that I know we want to get excited about the young kids and I play this guy and I play that guy. It means if there's an injury or there's a couple of injuries, Jock Madden's going to play halves. You don't have to play Andrews. If there's injuries in the forwards, you're going to get Suka to play. You're going to get Charlie Murray to play. You're going to get Seyfarth to play. You're going to get, trying to think, what other senior forwards there is. I think they're the guys. Same as the outside backs. You're going to get Patrick Herbert to play. You're going to get Skelton to play. I think that, those guys will come in regardless of who goes out in the back five. I think Tito will play fullback. I think Masini will go to centre if we need centres. I think what they'll do is they'll have 21, 22 core players and they will basically shuffle around who plays first grade throughout the year and they'll mix and match those guys, which will allow all these other kids to develop. Your Attards, your Jared Haywoods, your Javon Andrews, all these guys, you want them to have a year of cup under their belt. And I think that's the way they've recruited is to mean we've got senior players, Bunty Afoa, Royce Hunt. These guys will be the first grade options. I think there'll be 22, 23 of them, and they're the guys we'll see week in, week out in first grade.
We're getting close to the end, ADEL, but I'm going to ask you a couple of things. One is, what does the club do now? How does Benji approach the next 3 weeks, given, we're not playing till round 2? Like, what I know they're doing an inter-club sort of, a pretty reasonable hit out there. And how does he handle the Kai Pearce-Paul? That's going to be a mouthful this year, isn't it? Kai Pearce-Paul situation, given that he didn't play in the trial the other night. Will he be right, you reckon, to play 80 minutes in round 2?
Don't know who would be right to play 80 minutes, but again, we don't know what the injury is.
I think it was a calf. I think it was a tight calf.
Yeah, if it's a tight calf, he probably would have played if it was round 23 and we needed to win. Like, there's ways around that, but it's probably trial game. Don't want to play him. You got to also remember with him, he came off. He wasn't a November 1 preseason, so he was I think he was a Jan 1, wasn't he? Because he played for England, so he wouldn't have the same preparation as everybody else. So, from a high performance perspective, that's probably where they made that decision. The other thing we forgot to touch on, Rob, is, and it's a bit disappointing, and you'd like to think of whether it's somebody else, it'll be somebody else next year, but the NRL have got to be a bit better with this in regards to how we do. Last week should have been our first preseason game. Now, I know it's hard because there's nobody else playing next week, but whether it's a New South Wales Cup team, whether it's a Queensland Cup team, I think our second week main trial needs to be next week because I don't know whether you knew this, but it was what they call a high load week for us. So the reason why all the other teams didn't play their good players in the first trial is just like us. That's 3 weeks before round 1, which usually for teams means it's the highest load of training fitness-wise. And from now, what they'll do is they'll decrease that. It'll be a deload next week. I'll probably go another high load the week after because that's a week off, or the week before round 1 to top them up. And then you get ready into football week again for our first game, which will be round 2. So that's why teams last week weren't playing their top squad because they were on a high load work week. We were on that this week because of where we're sitting, and we had to play our guys because this was the only opportunity to do it this week. I would like to see the NRL say to the team who's got the bye, this last week of the preseason challenge, you play an NRL team, and then the following week, whether it's a Queensland Cup team, a New South Wales Cup team, whoever it is, I mean, the hard part is the team who's got the bye in New South Wales Cup the first week is the West Magpies. So that's our team. So I guess we're doing it anyway.
You're not allowed to mention that last word on the show, mate.
What's that?
The M word. I just
Well,
like upsetting those sorts of people. That's all.
Well, actually, funny story. One of our assistant coaches who's been really good for me this year. I don't know whether you remember him, Rob, but a lot of Western Suburbs Magpies fans will remember him. The great Scott Tronk, who played for the Magpies in the
played for the Broncos as well, didn't he? Sure, he played for the Broncos.
No, he played for Bulldogs.
Prop forward.
So he's one of our assistant coaches. He's been such a good person for me. I've learned so much from him through preseason this year. But Western Suburbs great, and I'm actually one day we want to get him on the show because he's a great storyteller. And I know a lot of people accuse the podcast of being Balmain bias. I think we'll get Tronky on, and he's a great fella to have on.
Well, we should mention that it is the South Logan Magpies, isn't it? So you are coaching for the Magpies.
Is, yeah. I am a Magpie at the moment, and yeah, mate, I love both parts of our history. We won't go into that.
That's right. We need the owners to love both parts too, mate. I want to get your projected team, given everyone's available, for round 2. Now, to make it a little bit easier, I think we can assume the 1-7 that started the other night is going to be the 1-7 for the start of the season. We'll assume Appy's going to be hooker. We're going to assume Kai Pearce-Paul is fit. Him and Samuel will be the second rowers. Terrell May hasn't played a trial at all as well. So I'm going to let you fill in the blanks for number 8, number 10, and number 13. And then I'd like to know, not necessarily who the people are, but how, given the 6-man bench now, how would you go about the makeup of that bench in terms of like positions? For example, when we're talking about a bench, do you keep, given Latu Fain who's injured, would you put a Jock Madden on the bench just in case one of the halves goes down? Like that, like how will the makeup of a 6-man bench be now? Because I believe you can only use 4 men from that bench, even though you've got a 6-man bench.
Yeah, that's correct. Well, it all comes down to if you're comfortable playing Madden at 9, you play him there. If you're not, you probably got to go with Hope. But with the way it's structured now, I think Hope goes onto the bench.
Yep.
Because you don't have to play him if you don't want to take Uppy off. So he's on the bench no matter what at this stage. You'll have 3 middle forwards with us can be hybrids because we've got your Suka can play in the middle, Seyfarth can play in the middle, and Edge, both. Sione can do that as well. So realistically, those 3, it's probably figuring out your starting line. To me, it's going to be Terrell and Fanua in the front row.
To start?
With Twilight Lock. Yeah, with Twilight Lock.
Right.
If they don't start with Fanua, I'd be interested to see who they do start with. They might start with Sione.
Yep.
As a middle forward. Let's just presume it's Fanua because Fanua's going to be there regardless. I think your bench is Hope, Sione, Seyfarth, Royce Hunt, and then I think you make a decision on what you do on the back of that. I think you go with Skelton, if he's fit, and then you go with either Madden or maybe a back row. I don't know. The makeup of the team will and the injuries or guys under injury clouds or not 100% will probably dictate that as well.
See, I would think you'd just treat it like it was last year. You pick the normal 17 you're going to play. You never carry an emergency halfback, and most teams, except for the old Tim Sheen's teams, don't carry an outside back. I just think you carry a fresh outside back if someone gets injured and a fresh half, and you go with your 3 forwards, a couple of them hybrids, and your hooker.
Well, you just got to create every scenario possible. That's basically what it is. You've got to create a scenario where every single position has an issue at some stage during the game and is covered. Now, at the end of the day, if Jahream or Adam go down with no Latu, it means that you're going to push up into the halves. If you're happy with that, well, then don't pick back on any of the half in any of the 6.
Gotcha.
If you're not happy with that, well, then you have to have Madden on that 6-man bench.
Yeah.
That's, to me, they're the decisions they have to make as a staff, and they will do that. They'll break it all down. So yeah, that's basically what it is. It's making sure that, if Jahream goes down, it's okay. Skelton's on the bench. He'll go to the wing. Tito will go to fullback. If it's one of the wingers goes down, Skelton comes on and plays on the wing. If it's the centers, one of the centers goes down. Well, Masini goes from wing to center, and Jarrell goes on the wing. So we've got the back five covered. Verity's playing the half situation. It's if Uppy goes down, Tristan Hope comes on. And then making sure our rotation works for our middles, and then making sure we're lucky that we've got Sione and Seyfarth who can play back row and middle. So it means that we've got that versatility there as well.
And they can play some minutes as well too.
Yep.
Mate, can we look forward to the pleasure of having you on every Sunday night during the season? We're actually going to have a few weeks off now. We're going to be doing West Tigers live on Wednesday night, and then we're not going to be back till Tuesday. What is it? 3 Tuesdays from now to preview the Cowboys game. So, can we have you on every week at 7:30, mate? I think everyone loves to hear from you.
Yeah, I'll be here, but it'll be interesting to see because all the boys and coaching staff at South now know I do this pod, so there'll be a bit of mockery about it. Carmichael said he was going to tune in tonight, so we'll watch it at some stage. So as long as the boys don't mock me too much and it's not the running joke every week, that'll probably wear me down. But nah, of course I'll be there.
Mate, it wouldn't be rugby league if you weren't getting shade thrown at you from every direction. I think that's part of the rugby league culture, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's great being at a club that I'm at the moment. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Obviously, the only reason I wouldn't, obviously, if one of our games clash. But from what I understand, most of our draw should be okay for Sunday nights.
All right, ADEL. Well, look, thanks again for joining us, and I want to thank you in particular for being patient tonight before we got set up. We had a few difficulties on some technical issues. Thanks to Daniel for sorting all that out. Thank you to all the viewers that waited patiently to watch this live. Please, like I said earlier, and Gary said earlier, subscribe to what is now West Tigers TV. It's no longer West Tigers Live, so subscribe to West Tigers TV on YouTube. We are just going to try and give you so much information, so many podcasts, so many fun things going on, and we just want everyone to be a part of the West Tigers and try and unify all our supporters and just make it the place to go to for all your content. So thank you for your patience. Thanks again to Daniel at Mic'dUp Studios. Enjoy the next few weeks. We've had a great preseason. It doesn't mean anything, but like I said earlier, winning's a habit, and we want that to be a habit in 2026. Go the West Tigers.